All right, welcome. We're kind of nearing the end of our statistics unit, and what we're going to do is kind of revisit a couple of the big ideas of this unit, one being line plot, the other being histogram. And we're going to start out on page 16 by making a line plot and thinking about what information we can get from it. So we're going to be on page 16 here, okay, or thereabouts. All right, so here's our question. It says, what is the typical number of push-ups per minute students did in second period gym class? So that word typical, again, is a key word that can help make a question statistical. And so here we have a set of data here, looks like 20 numbers, of the number of push-ups people did in a minute in second period. So we're going to organize this data by making a little chart. So this is first column might be push-ups. And then we got tally. Let's count these up. Our least number of push-ups would be 17. And we're going to go up to 20. Looks like the most is 26. So we got 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. All right, let's take some time to tally these up. We're going to cross them out as we go to make sure we've counted them all. 17, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24, again, 17 again, 21, 21, 21, 26, 22, 23, 23, 23, 21, all right, 22, 21 again, 24, and 21. So I'm just going to take a second just to check to make sure I have all the data. So we got two 17s, 7 21s, 3 23s, or 22s, 3 23s, 4 24s, 1 26. 7 plus 3 is 10, 12, 15, 19, 20. So we have a total of 20, which is good because we have 20 pieces of data. So now we're going to set up our line plot down here. We're going to start with our least number, and we're going to go all the way up to our greatest. We're not going to skip any of the numbers that had 0 because those are still, we want to still include those to sort of show the shape of the data. It'll help us see any gaps a little bit more clearly. So 23, 24, 25, perfect, 26. All right, then for each data point, we're going to put the number of data points for each number. So 17, there were 2 X's, 2 data points at 17, nothing at 18, nothing at 19, nothing at 20, but then we had a bunch at 21. So we're going to make sure our X's are around the same size. We're going to make about the same amount of space between our X's, show our data points. Okay. 22 is 3. 23 is also 3. So 22 and 23 should be the same exact height. 24 is 4, so 1 data point greater. 25, nothing. 26 is just 1. All right. Well, let's find the measures of center. So this will kind of show us where the center of the data is. First, we'll find the mean. Now, to find the mean, we'll add them all up, and we'll divide by how many there were. So let's add them all up first. We have 17 times 2, because we have 2 of those, plus 21 times 7, plus 22 times 3, plus 23 times 3, plus 24 times 4, plus 1 solitary 26. Once we get that, of course, we're going to divide it all by 20 because there were 20 data points that we just added up. I'm just going to get a calculator real quick. Okay. Let's add these up. Let's see how many total push-ups this class did in period 2 when they were given their 1 minute of push-up time. 21 times 7 plus 22 times 3 plus 23 times 3 plus 4 times 4 plus 26. That whole thing, we're going to divide it by 20. So it's going to be 21. Actually, so when you add it up, it's going to be 438. That's how many total push-ups there were, divided equally among 20 people.
Did you do anything different from what was in our thing? Or are you going to call?
One moment. I have a special guest. I'm just going to pause for a second. How do you pause? Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. Sorry, a special guest, and I couldn't figure out how to pause it, but I'm back. All right, so we're going to divide that 438 by 20, and we get 21.9 push-ups. Okay, and now we're going to find the median. So what we'll do is we'll order these 17, 17. We're going to put them all in order. I wish I wrote smaller. I'm going to start writing a little smaller. 21, 21, 21, 21. So many 21s. 22, 22, 22. 3 23s, 23, 23, 23, 24. Oh boy. 24, 24, 24, and then 126. And what we're going to do, because we have 20 data points, which is even number, we're going to have 2 in the middle. We're going to have 2 in the middle. Here we go. We're going to cross out until we have 2 in the middle, because this is an even number, 20. We'll see what we get. Crossing them out. Crossing them out. Crossing them out. I wonder what it's going to be. We're narrowing it down here. Oh. Well, look at that. It's 22. 22. So the middle of that is just 22 push-ups. Okay. So our mean and our median are very close. Mean is 21.9. Median is 22. Which measure of center best describes the data? Probably the mean, even though they're similar. And the reason is because there's no outlier. If I know 17 seems like it's kind of far away, but 17 is pretty close to 21. And there are 2 17s, so that kind of makes a difference there. If somebody did like 1 push-up or somebody did like 100, that would be more of an outlier. Because there is no outlier. I'm just going to change the no to because there is no outlier. All right, let's describe the shape of the data, the cluster. So to me, there's a cluster right here. That's a cluster of the data. That's where there's a lot of data in a small space. There's a cluster is from 21 to 24. That's the cluster. The peak, which is the highest point of the data, the peak is at what data point? Looks like 21 had the highest number of data. Is that 21? There are 2 gaps, actually. There's a gap here, 17 to 21, and there's a gap between 24 and 26. So there is a gap from 17 to 21 and 24 to 26. So there are the gaps. 2 gaps. The peak's at 21, and there's a cluster of data between 21 and 24. Okay. So the typical number, to answer that question, the typical number is about 21.9. That was the number we used because there's no outlier there. Okay. Let's look at the next page. What statistical question could have been asked to gather this data? We have number of hours spent on the internet. Okay, so I'm going to use that word typical, which we saw before. I'm going to say, like, what is the typical, or what is the typical number of hours? Typical number of hours a student spends online. It's a lot of hours. Someone was online for 7 hours. Jeez. All right, so what is the typical number of hours a student spends online? Again, the key word there is typical. That could be a question that, this data would be collected for. All right, let's find those measures of center again. We got the mean, we got the median. So to find the mean, we're going to add up all the data points. So we look at 1. We have 1, 1. So I'm just going to put a 1 there. Plus 2 2s. Oh, that's a 2. That's a 2. 2 2s. Plus 3 3s. That's a pattern here. Plus 5 4s. So the pattern has ended. 4 times 5. We have 3 5s. So 5 times 3. 2 6s. 6 times 2. And a 7. We're going to divide that whole thing by how many data points there were. So let's count those up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yikes. All right. Let's add those up. So we got 1 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 times 3 plus 4 times 5 plus 5 times 3 plus 6 times 2 plus 7. So we get 68. Now I have a feeling that the mean's going to, remember, the mean's supposed to measure the center of the data. It looks like 4 is the center of the data. Let's see if that's right. 68 divided by 17 is 4. 4 hours. It worked out to be exactly 4 hours. All right, let's find the median. We're going to line the numbers, all the data points up in order, and we're going to find the middle of the numbers. So we got 1 1, 2 2s. Now we have 17 3 3s. 17 data points, so that means we're going to have 1 in the center because that's an odd number. Now again, I'm pretty sure that this number we're going to get in the center is 4 again, because if you look at the line plot, it looks like 4 is right in the middle. All right, let's find that median here. Crossing them out, finding the 1 in the middle because there are 17 data points, which is an odd number. 17 data points. We're going to find the 1 in the middle, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be that middle 4, and there it is. So the median was 4. It says, which measure of center would best describe the data? Well, either one you could use because it's the same, but we would use the mean. And again, if you look at the data, there's no outliers that are going to pull the mean up or down. So we use the mean because there are no outliers. So if somebody was online for like 20 hours, that would be an outlier. But since all the data is pretty close together, there's no outliers, we're going to go with the mean, even though they're the same exact number. Okay. All right. Let's check out this line plot here. What are the modes of the data set? Now, the mode is the one that's like the most popular, the one that comes up the most. And there are 2 modes. It's kind of like the peak. 40 is a mode. and 42 is a mode. Those are the numbers that came up the most, and they were tied. Why are there two modes? Well, 40 and 42 both had 3 data points. So each one had the same number of data points, so that's why those two were the mode. What is the range? Well, the range is the greatest minus the least. Well, what's the greatest value? Greatest would be 47. What's the least? What would be here? So there's 26. This must be 25. So we do the greatest data point, 47, minus the least, which is 25. 47 minus 25 is 22. What does the range tell you about the data set? Well, the range tells us how spread out the data is. Tells us how, oh boy, how spread out the data is. Describe the shape of the data. We did this previously on the other assignment. So describe the shape. So we got clusters. Where's the cluster? I would say like right here, there's a cluster. There's a lot of data there. I know there's the 42, so I kind of want to include the 42, but between 38 and 40 is a cluster. So is 38 to 40. All right, where's the peak? Now the peak is, there's two peaks because there's two ones that are the highest. So the peaks are at 40 and 42. Now there's so many gaps here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 gaps. There are 5 gaps. We're going to kind of shorten this up here so we're not writing a paragraph here about gaps. There are 5 gaps between. All right, where are the gaps? 25 to 36. Okay, that's one of them. 36 and 38. That's another one. We got 40 to 40, 40 and 42. 42 and 44. And there's one more. And 45, comma. I'll put a comma. It's called an Oxford comma, by the way. 45 and 47. So there were so many gaps. And there were all the gaps. Okay. All right. Well, that was a good summary of line plot. We'll take a look next at histograms. Okie dokes.